Welcome to the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio. We've got a fast-paced hour of fishing, hunting, and conservation covering the nation and the Northwest, including 13 extra minutes of local content you'll only hear on Seattle's sports radio, KJR.
It's a very special Saturday morning, and I'm glad you're here. It is opening day for both duck season, goose season, and deer season. There's a lot of hunters in the woods, and there's a lot of hunters out in the marshes, too. If you're listening to the show today on AM 950 KJR, this was our stomping ground for a long time, but as you probably know, we now air on Seattle Sports Radio KJR, FM 93.3, except for this weekend. We've been preempted by the Huskies pregame show. We'll be back to the FM dial next weekend. This week on the show, we've got a couple great guests for you. One of them is Marc Bush. He's the owner of Twisted Waters Guide Service. He's been after Chinook and coho salmon down in the Columbia River Gorge. He's going to tell you where, and he's going to tell you about a very interesting double that he and his clients hooked up on a recent trip. That'll be at the bottom of the hour, but you'll want to stick around for the end of the show because Bob Loomis is back with Max Lure. And if you didn't know it, they have a free digital newsletter they send out every month. It's called the Mac Attack. You can sign up for it at maxlure.com. And Bob and I will talk about what's in this month's edition. This portion of the show, as always, is brought to you by your Puget Sound area Sportsman's Warehouse stores in Puyallup, Federal Way, Everett, Silverdale, and Sequim. And if you need ammo, head on down to Sportsman's Warehouse. They've got plenty of it. You can also shop online for all sorts of other items at sportsmans.com, and you'll definitely want to take advantage of the great hunt sale going on right now. We're going to start off our outdoors news down in Westport. The annual Charter Derby has ended for the year. Anytime you go on a charter, if you buy a ticket in advance, you're eligible to have your fish weighed, and if it's the biggest fish of the year, you get some good money. Now this year, a 27.4-pound Chinook earned Onalaska's Mike Searle $10,000. John McDaniel of Tacoma got $1,000 for his 68.9-pound halibut, and Severin Mickelson of Issaquah got $1,500 for his 13.75-pound coho. And an Eastsider did pretty well too. Paul Reidman of Othello is in position to score $1,500 if his 36.2-pound lingcod holds on for just a couple more weeks. From Northwest Sportsman Magazine, I can tell you that they're still catching tuna off the Northwest Oregon coast. As a matter of fact, a 164-pound bluefin tuna was landed 25 miles west of Garibaldi. A lot bigger than those albacore tuna that we are used to seeing up here. Finally, the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife wants to remind you that their annual trout derby continues through October 31st. Go fishing at one of the 100 lakes that have been stocked, catch a trout with a yellow tag on it, and you'll be winning some prizes. Checking locally in King County, Cottage Lake still has 6 prizes waiting to be claimed. The prizes already claimed were fish catch bags. Green Lake in Seattle has had a number of tagged fish caught, but there's still 3 waiting to be claimed. One of the big prizes that was given out there on one of the tagged fish at Green Lake was a guided fishing trip for 4. Also, a couple of $100 gift certificates and 2 rounds of 18 holes of golf with a cart. Nice prizes. Lake Margaret and Pine Lake each have at least 3 prizes waiting to be claimed, and they'll get you lure combo packs. And in Pierce County, at American Lake, there's still 7 prizes waiting to be claimed. Silver Lake has 3 prizes waiting to be claimed. Looks like those are rod and reel combos if you reel in one of those tagged fish. And Ballinger Lake in Snohomish County also has 6 prizes waiting to be claimed. Could be anything from a lure combo pack to a $75 gift card. You do have to have a permanent license. Temporary licenses don't work, but get on out to one of the lakes. Just go to the WDFW website, fish and shell fishing page, look for the fishing contest, and then get to the WDFW Trout Derby page and check out a lake near you. And with that, you are now in the know about what's hot this week in the Pacific Northwest.
That's your first local shot of the outdoors. Now let's see what's going on across the nation. Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter, full of the gear you need to succeed this hunting season. Firearms, ammo, archery equipment, decoys, clothing, boots, and more. You'll find it all at Sportsman's Warehouse. Better still, the knowledgeable staff can help you with tips to help you bag a trophy or a limit. Find a location near you or shop online today at sportsmans.com.
It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Kruse.
Welcome to the show. It's the middle of October, and that means it is a great time of year to be a hunter. There are modern rifle deer hunting seasons going on in multiple states, kicking off this weekend, and some have already been going on for a little while. A lot of waterfowl hunters are getting out this weekend, myself included, hoping to bag a mixed bag of teal and mallard and gadwall and widgeon. I'm fortunate enough to be hunting with the guide, Shelby Ross. Pretty sure we're going to do pretty well. In other states, pheasant hunting is opening up, as well as quail hunting, and grouse hunting's already been open in several states for quite some time. It's a great excuse to take the dog and a gun for a walk. Hopefully, you're getting out there in the field yourself, and October is a great time to go fishing, too. This week on the show, we've got some great guests for you. One of those guests is Keith Crowley, and we're going to air an interview about his very memorable and difficult hunt for Mearns quail in the American Southwest. If this sounds familiar, there's a reason for that. It's an interview we aired in 2023, but we entered it into the Outdoor Writers Association of America Excellence in Craft Contest, and we learned last month in El Paso, Texas, that it won first place in the audio category for hunting when it comes to podcasts and radio. That's why we're going to re-air this award-winning interview for you today. Deer hunters are going to be very interested in hearing from another guest today. That's Josh Honeycutt. He just wrote a very informative article for Outdoor Life magazine about scent control strategies, because when you're deer hunting, you don't want to spook that deer with your scent. He's got some stuff you've probably thought of before and a whole bunch of stuff you've probably never thought of before. One example of that, eating an apple before you hit the tree stand. We'll explain more in the middle of our show today. And with the political season upon us, we're going to talk a little bit about politics, especially when it comes to hunting and shooting. Todd Adkins, Senior Vice President for the Sportsmans Alliance, will join us to talk about a ban on recreational shooting at Bears Ear National Monument in Utah, the possibility of hunters being able to hunt on Sundays in Pennsylvania on a weekly basis during the hunting season, and about the dysfunctional Washington State Fish and Wildlife Commission that unfortunately has more anti-hunting enthusiasts than hunting enthusiasts on it, and these anti-hunters aren't really keen on the North American model of conservation. So how does this change? Well, with the gubernatorial election. If you vote one way, you're going to probably get more of the same from the commission. If you vote the other way, I suspect there'll be some changes that'll get the commission and hunting back on the right track in the Evergreen State. We'll tell you more about that towards the end of our program today. This portion of the show is brought to you by Henry Repeating Arms, and with hunting season underway, it's a great time to take that Henry out into the woods, or if you don't have one yet, to buy a Henry and take it out in the woods. Whether you're after squirrel and you want to take out a 22, maybe rabbit with a lever action 410, fall turkey with a single-shot turkey camo shotgun, or deer hunting, because Henry has got all sorts of lever-action rifles in all sorts of different calibers. It'll be perfect for deer and other big game as well. You can check out the entire lineup at henryusa.com. You're going to find all of these firearms have a lifetime satisfaction guarantee, and one thing I love about Henry is that all of their firearms are produced right here in America. They're reliable, they're accurate. I love my Henry rifle, and I bet you're going to love one too. So again, go to henryusa.com, look for an authorized dealer near you, and don't forget to ask for your free decals and catalog while you're there. Next, let's share some outdoors news with you. Our first stop is Arkansas's Crater of Diamonds State Park. This is a very unique park where you can go look for diamonds, and if you find one, you get to keep it. Now, on Friday, September 27th, a guest visiting the Crater of Diamonds State Park found, get this, a 2.3 carat white diamond in the park's 37.5-acre diamond search area. This is the third diamond over 2 carats registered this year and the second largest diamond registered in 2024. So, if any of you are looking at getting married and maybe don't want to spend all that money on a big diamond, head to Arkansas's Crater of Diamonds State Park, go for a walk, dig around. You might just save yourself some money and really impress your partner, too. Next on America Outdoors Radio,
it's time for the Trail of Shame.
Shame, shame on you. Shame, shame on you.
stories of poachers, scoundrels, and other ne'er-do-wells, so if you see someone committing a criminal act on the water or in the field, turn them in. It's the right thing to do.
From the Outdoor Wire, we learned dozens of trophy bucks were poached in Pennsylvania and charges are being filed. A nearly 2-year investigation by the Pennsylvania Game Commission has led to the filing of 71 charges against 3 Chester County residents, a father and his 2 adult sons, who are accused of poaching dozens upon dozens of trophy bucks in Chester and Delaware County. Charged in the incident are Carol Nelson, the 4th, 44 years old, facing 11 charges. Carl Nelson III, 70 years old, of Westchester, facing 35 charges. And Mark Nelson, 40 years old, of Westchester, facing 25 charges. These are misdemeanors and in some cases felony charges. All 3 defendants are facing significant fines, court costs, and restitution. They are also facing extensive hunting license revocation if convicted. The Game Commission began investigating the case after receiving a tip concerning the unlawful taking of large whitetail bucks over a span of years. The charges filed involve deer that were taken out of season, at night, or over the limit of 1 buck per hunter per year. Nearly 50 mounts and antler sets, most of them trophy class, were seized from the 3, and this broad investigation remains open to determine whether additional people are involved. Numerous state game wardens and deputy state game wardens from throughout the Game Commission's southeast region, as well as the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission and Chester County detectives, assisted in this lengthy investigation. In the words of the Pennsylvania Game Commission, poachers are thieves. Help us catch them. Report poaching and wildlife crimes to the Game Commission by calling the agency's 24-hour dispatch center. And when it comes to poaching, if you see something, say something. Carol, Carl, and Mark, you 3 definitely look like you deserve to be walking our trail of shame this week.
Shame on you.
Turning to the world of collegiate tournament bass fishing. From the Fishing Wire, we learn that Tennessee has triumphed in the first ever Abu Garcia College Rivalry Fishing Tournament. In a thrilling head-to-head competition, the University of Tennessee beat out the University of Florida in this new Abu Garcia College Rivalry Fishing Tournament on Fort Loudon Lake. Tennessee weighed in a total of 31 pounds, 8 ounces of 20 scoreable bass, outpacing Florida's 19 pounds, 10 ounces. Streamed live by Major League Fishing, the event kicked off a week of rivalry leading up to the highly anticipated Tennessee-Florida college football game happening this weekend. And sticking with bass fishing, I've got to tell you, one of my favorite lures to use is a lipless crankbait, especially in the fall and the summer. And Berkley has come out with one I really like. It's called the Berkley War Pig. I've been using it for several years now. It has a blunter nose than your average lipless crankbait, and it tends to bounce off rocks. Well, now Berkley has come out with a brand new lipless crankbait that's even more blunt. It's called Jack, and it's very unique. It's built around a sturdy and condensed tungsten weighting system. Berkley calls it Jack because of its jackknife blade design, which allows it to slice through the water, producing a fast fall rate to ignite aggressive strikes. The large, flat-sided profile of the Berkley Jack features a dual flash point to refract light and create maximum side flash, mimicking the appearance of a real minnow or baitfish. Loud rattles, crisp vibrations, and high-end finishes combine to make Jack a vital addition to any angler's arsenal. You can fish Jack in shallow water like a lot of folks fish crankbaits, but don't forget deep water scenarios where you can go ahead and fish it as a vertical presentation, basically jigging it. Jack comes in half ounce, 3/4 ounce, and 1 ounce sizes, a variety of colors. It's going to retail for just under $10, and it'll be available starting this month in sporting goods stores all over America. The Berkley Jack, I'm going to buy some. They look like they're going to work pretty darn well. Stick around. In just a couple minutes, we're going to bring you that award-winning interview about hunting Marin's quail with Keith Crowley.
Come explore the Dalles in Oregon for outdoors fun. Hike amongst the wildflowers, bike our riverfront trail, or visit the Gorge Discovery Center where you can enjoy a live raptor display, or even check out our National Neon Sign Museum. But don't forget the fishing. We've got salmon, steelhead, bass, walleye, and monster-sized sturgeon waiting just for you. When the day is done, tell those tall tales at one of our wineries, breweries, or restaurants and plan your next adventure. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
Campers, adventure seekers, hunters, and foodies. No matter the lifestyle, we can all agree on one thing. Great food and great people are worth remembering. At Camp Chef, we don't just make grills. We create each product knowing that a warm meal is always better when it's shared with those we love. Learn more about Camp Chef grills, smokers, and portable cooking equipment at campchef.com. That's campchef.com for a better way to cook outdoors.
John Kruse here, looking to improve your bottom line as a business that caters to outdoors enthusiasts. You can do so for a very cost-effective price by advertising on America Outdoors Radio. I will tailor a marketing campaign for you, reaching hundreds of thousands of listeners every weekend, tuning into our show on 135 stations in 33 states. We've got a sponsor opening right now, so contact me through my website at americaoutdoorsradio.com, and let's talk about helping you.
Immerse yourself in a complete Alaska wilderness experience through Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Up to 6 of you will spend a week in a beautiful waterfront log home in a secluded cove. Every day is a new adventure. Go on a guided fishing trip or haul in a bounty of shrimp and crab. Visit a Native American village where totem poles are carved. Go on a whale or bear watching trip and return back to your very own place at the end of the day. Find out more about the Alaska Wilderness Experience at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com.
This year, resolve to immerse yourself into the great outdoors. Whether you're learning to hunt, fish, hike, camp, paddle, or grill, or are looking to take yourself to the next level, the place to go for the gear you need is Sportsman's Warehouse. With over 145 stores around the nation, Sportsman's Warehouse is truly America's premier outfitter. Find a store near you or shop online anytime at sportsmans.com. That's sportsmans.com for Sportsman's Warehouse.
Northwest Oregon's Tillamook Coast is not only the place to go for cheese and ice cream, but also for outdoors fun. Hook into a salmon in Tillamook Bay or one of the rivers flowing into it. Harvest tasty clams from our bays and pull up a crab arena or pot full of big, Dungeness crab. Visit our parks, walk the beaches, explore our forests, and enjoy our coastal communities. You are going to love it here. Plan your trip today at tillamookcoast.com. That's tillamookcoast.com.
Explore the Dalles, the hub where discovery and history come together. Whether the Northwest is your home or you're on an adventure, the Dalles welcomes you. Just 80 miles east of Portland is the perfect year-round escape with a community that cares about you. 300 days of sun, breathtaking outdoor recreation, and a downtown full of the unexpected. Oh, and the rich history that began before the Oregon Trail. Start planning at explorethedalles.com.
Come to Mardon Resort for some great fishing. Potholes Reservoir has been named as one of the top 10 bass lakes in the western U.S. by Bassmaster Magazine. There's also great fishing for walleye, quality rainbow trout, panfish, catfish, and more. Don't have a boat? Don't worry. If you're staying at the resort, you can fish at the marina or explore the Seep Lake south of the reservoir for good fishing and a beautiful scenic landscape. Plan your trip today by going to mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We're catching up with Keith Crowley, very well-known outdoors writer and photographer, coming at us from Florida today, where he's going to do some fishing, but he just finished up a quail hunt in Arizona. Keith, welcome to the show.
Always a pleasure to be on your show. I'm glad to be here, and I love talking about quail hunting in particular, but I'll talk about anything outdoor related if you want me to.
Well, let's stick to quail hunting today, because I'm very intrigued about the species of quail you were hunting. Most quail seasons are closed across the United States, but the Marin's quail season in Arizona and New Mexico runs pretty late. Both just closed. Tell us a little bit about this species of quail.
Yeah, Merns, some people call them Montezuma. I think if you went to the birding community, they call them Montezuma quail. They tend to live at higher elevations than the other desert quail, the Gambel's quail or the scaled quail that we have down in the desert Southwest in New Mexico and in Arizona and parts of Nevada. The Merns or the Montezumas, they tend to live between 4,500 and 6,500 feet in elevation, and they like wooded draws. It's mostly live oak, sycamore, some junipers, and that type of cover, as opposed to open cactus and grassland and the same type of habitat that the desert quail prefer. So they're in a slightly different topography. It tends to be more vertical, more up and down, and it pays to be fit and it pays to be nimble, which I'm sure we'll discuss in a little bit.
Well, it sounds a little bit like chukar hunting to me, which is a young man's sport.
It is. Chukars, I always equate chukar hunting as the sheep hunting of the upland world. That tends to be a little steeper, and I think chukars, the habitat they prefer, tends to be a little more shaly and rocky, where Merns really do need the trees. They have very large claws, and they dig for a root. I wish I could remember the name of the plant that they subsist on at this time of year, and so they spend their whole time under these live oaks and sycamores and other trees digging, and that's one of the ways you can actually tell if you're in Merns habitat. You'll see all these little pockets that are dug up under the trees, and you're in the right area for Merns quail.
I'm used to hunting California valley quail and sagebrush in eastern Washington. You always find them in the sagebrush. It's going to sound like a silly question, but when we're talking about sycamores and oak, are you actually flushing them or finding them sometimes in the trees themselves?
I have not actually ever. They've always been on the ground because that's where they're feeding, but I have seen photos of them perched in trees. I've just never encountered that myself. So, I would never say never with any kind of upland bird, but I haven't seen it myself. I'm sure, just like sometimes you'll see scaled quail perched up on big cholla cactuses or whatever. I'm sure they get up there for vantage points sometimes, but I personally have never managed to put up a covey that wasn't on the ground.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your hunt. What drew me to this conversation was a Facebook post you had, and I guess the best way to describe at least the picture I saw on Facebook was that your hunt looked particularly painful.
Yeah, like I said, it pays to be nimble with Merns because you're doing a lot of up and down. And I took a pretty good spill that I'm still paying for now. A couple weeks later, turns out I ended up cracking a bone in my elbow.
Oh.
And so, yeah, and so the photo you saw was a little on the bloody side. I bled quite a bit without knowing it because I was this happened early in the morning and it was icy. One of the things where Merns live, even though you're almost to Mexico, you're way, way down south in southern Arizona, you're at higher elevations and you get a lot of frosts overnight. And boy, I was barely out of the truck going down into my first draw looking for a covey with a friend, and I hit an icy rock. I came down hard, happened to have my shotgun in that hand. I saved the gun, but I took a real blow on my elbow, and it tore me open, which I didn't know until I could feel the blood trickling into my clothing. So that kind of put a damper on the morning, but amazingly, it wasn't that painful until about 2 days later. So I hunted for the rest of that day, and we found a few coveys, and we did pretty well, actually.
I hope you continue to heal up, and that happens sooner than later. Let's talk a little bit about the dog you hunt over.
Yeah, I have a new setter pup, an English setter. Her name is Ruby. She is not quite 2 years old, so she's still learning the game. She's had a lot of birds shot over already, though, between Montana and where I live ordinarily in northern Wisconsin. We have ruffed grouse and woodcock, and she does just fine on them. When you get her down into the desert, there's a learning curve because especially with the Gambels and the scaled quail, they are runners. They run like little rooster pheasants. And so it can be really tough for a dog to pin a covey. She does fine on singles, but she needs a lot of work. And that's one of the reasons we targeted Merns quite a bit this past January is because they hold, unlike the desert quail, unlike the blues, which scaled quail sometimes are called blues, and the Gambel's quail, Merns hold very tight. They hold almost as well as woodcock do.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you really almost have to get right into the middle of the covey for them to go. So they're very good for a young dog, and she handles Mearns a lot better than she does the runners. So that was part of the reason to bring her down, is to get her on a bunch of Mearns quail this year. It was a good year for Mearns, too. They're very dependent on monsoon rains that happen down in that part of the country in the summer. So they get their heavy rains in July and August, and the Mearns quail, they nest very late, and they require those late rains to produce the grasses, the seeds, and probably most importantly, the insects that the young quail need to survive. And they got that last year. They had very good monsoons down there, and so the Mearns numbers are very good.
Very good to hear this. Sounds like a great bird to hunt, especially in the late season. I guess my last question is this. Were most of these hunts taking place on public lands, and what resources would you direct folks to if they wanted to plan a hunt in the winter for Mearns quail?
Well, it's all public land as far as what I did. There are ranches that cater to guides and lodging, but 90% of the territory down there is either national forest, BLM, or state trust land. So everything I hunted, and I was down for the whole month of January, the entire area, I never left public lands. So Mearns are very limited geographically. While they're really prevalent in Mexico, they only exist right kind of in the southeastern corner of Arizona, the southwesternmost corner of New Mexico. So there's very limited opportunities in terms of range, but within that range, you're going to find Mearns any place that you find the right habitat. And again, that's the live oaks and the wooded draws, and, hunt around 5,000 to 6,000 feet. That's the elevation they tend to prefer. And the BLM and the Forest Service biologists, they'll give you directions on where to go. The numbers vary from mountain range to mountain range. I don't know if have you been down in that country before?
I have not, though. This conversation is making me want to go there next winter.
Well, they call it the Sky Islands, and that's because there's all these independent little mountain ranges. There's mountain ranges all over down there, the Mule Mountains, the Chiricahuas, the Whetstones. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of little mountain ranges, and they're all separated by big, high chaparral grass and high desert country. And the Mearns are in all those little pockets of mountains, all those Sky Islands. So basically anywhere south of Tucson, south and east of Tucson is where all of the Mearns habitat is in Arizona.
Well, we're going to have to leave it at that, but folks, if you're looking for a bucket list quail to hunt, the Mearns quail certainly sounds like a great opportunity. You can do so after a lot of the season's close, and do so in some beautiful desert country to boot. Keith, thanks for sharing your hunt with our listeners today on America Outdoors Radio.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
This portion of the show is brought to you by our friends at WorkSharp. And if you are hunting this fall, you know the importance of a sharp knife. You're going to need it for gutting that animal, butchering that animal, taking the hide off that animal, and there's a good chance you're going to have to sharpen it more than once while you're doing these things in the field. That's why a pocket knife sharpener or the guided field sharpener from WorkSharp are great items to have with you. Whether you're after deer, elk, pronghorn, or bear, a sharp knife helps you get things done after you drop that animal. Look for WorkSharp products at sporting goods stores, hardware stores, and ranch and home stores near you, or online at worksharptools.com. That's worksharptools.com.
Ready to step up to a quality-built rifle or shotgun that's a true classic? Check out Henry Repeating Arms, American-made. There's over 200 models to choose from in a variety of finishes and calibers for hunters and target shooters. Many of these are lever-action models with a look right out of the Old West. Don't be deceived, though. Henry Repeating Arms are modern, rugged, accurate, reliable, and have a lifetime guarantee. Find out more and order a free catalog today at henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com.
Ready for more local fishing and hunting? You got it. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, right here on Seattle's Sports Radio, KJR.
Next up, we are taking you to the Columbia River Gorge, a hot spot in the fall for both Chinook, salmon, and steelhead. With us here to give you a current fishery report is Marc Bush with Twisted Waters Guide Service. Marc, it's great to have you back on the air.
Always a pleasure to be here.
So I understand on your last fishing trip, you had a very interesting situation develop on your boat.
Yes, I did. So I was trying to get some Chinook going and already had one in the boat. Rod goes down. Everybody reels up. I left my rod. Splasher's barely in the water. Lead's in the water. Super bait, the stick bait. And back of that, it's just flopping around. I look over to see where the guy is with the fish. Look back at my rod, and I have a coho on it. So that thing followed the super bait all the way to the surface and nabbed it while it was just sitting there.
Oh, my goodness. Did you get both fish in?
We did.
Nice,
a
nice.
Non-conventional double.
Very unconventional indeed. Was this off the mouth of the Klickitat or the Deschutes?
Actually, it's off the little white salmon.
Gotcha. How long do you expect the fishing to continue for fall Chinook? It can't be that much longer.
Well, the ones that we did get, they showed a lot of color. I'm not going to be targeting them anymore. If I get one that's got some good color to it, I'll probably bonk it. But, there's still some good ones out there. But I think this is kind of we're seeing the tail end of it. But, the coho apparently they're a little bit aggressive.
I guess so. And the coho bite's going to just keep going into November, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What's the limit for coho in your neck of the woods?
I would have to check the regs again, but as far as I know, it's still a 2-fish salmon limit. Only one can be an adult Chinook. And
do you have openings for the rest of October and into early November?
I do. Yeah, just get with me for availability. My number is 253-468-0610. You can contact me through Facebook, Twisted Waters Guide Service, Marc Bush. Send me an email. But text messages usually, I always have my phone on me, so that's a good one to go with. 253-468-0610.
All right, fair enough. Thank you for the fishing report and for the very entertaining story about those salmon on the Columbia River Gorge.
Thank you, John.
The Dalles in Oregon is your base camp for fishing fun. Reel in big salmon, tangle with steelhead, bass, and walleye, or wrestle a monster sturgeon to the boat. Plan your fishing getaway today at explorethedalles.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. Deer hunting season is upon us. And if you're like me, you've probably been busted by deer before in terms of being at the wrong place and they get your scent and you never get that shot you're hoping for. Well, there are strategies you can use to go ahead and mitigate that. And one person who knows this is Josh Honeycutt. He's coming at us from Kentucky today. He wrote a great article that you can find at outdoorlife.com about 15 different scent control strategies that actually work for deer hunting. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
First things first, is there any way you can completely remove your scent so that a deer or an elk never knows you're there?
Negative. No, you're never going to completely fool a whitetail's nose or an elk's nose. Any cervid, you're never going to completely fool their nose. But, there are a lot of tactics that you can help mitigate, most of the scent, or at least some of the scent, but you're never going to completely get rid of it.
So I saw one of your first tips was to think and implement a long-term scent control mentality. And this has to do with the shampoo you use, the soap you use, the colognes and the deodorants. Tell our listeners more about this.
Yeah, deer hunters definitely should consider a long-term scent control method. They don't want to just prepare the day of the hunt. Start mitigating that scent long before that. During hunting season, consider, quit using the smelly shampoos that you use most of the rest of the year, if you do. And, even before deer season starts, so if your season starts in the beginning of September, maybe you start thinking about this in beginning of June or beginning of July. I know a lot of hunters who are really serious about it. They've quit using smelly shampoos and soaps altogether, and they just use scent reduction-based soaps and shampoos all year long. So it definitely helps if you implement that long-term mentality.
I'm very curious, what are scent reduction soaps and shampoos? I guess I'm not familiar with this at all.
So there's certain soaps that you use to
take showers with, certain shampoos that you can use to wash your hair with when you're bathing, that ultimately are unscented, but they also, to my knowledge, have some components within them that help, remove some of the oils, some of the odors that come with, hair and skin.
Do you have a couple of examples?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ones out there that make these, Wildlife Research Center, Dead Downwind. There's numerous brands out there that produce products such as these that hunters can, purchase and benefit from.
Well, it's not just your body, it's also your clothing. So you suggest treating your hunting clothes, well, number one, washing them, but washing them with scent reduction laundry detergent. Never heard of that either.
Yeah, there's certain laundry detergents out there that will treat your clothes that basically remove some of those scents that you don't want in there. Again, I don't understand all the scientific elements of it. I just know that put stinky clothes in and they come out not smelling like anything. So it's really all that I know from the scientific standpoint. I don't know anything scientific at all, but that is something that I usually do. It's just part of my regimen, if you want to call it that, part of the process that I use.
Well, the other one that you have, and this is something I actually do, but not for the reason of scent control. It's just my hunting clothes go into a tote, and I take them out in the fall. But you say this actually helps remove scent, too.
I think it helps at least prevent scent from, other potential foreign odor from contaminating your hunting clothes. I do think that. It also helps to prevent your hunting clothes from making it into other garments that you would wash with your general laundry detergent. And there's multiple reasons why you don't want to use general laundry detergent on your hunting clothes. Scent is obviously one, because most laundry detergents are scent. They have scent, some type of scent to them. The other thing, though, is UV brighteners. And so whitetails are cervids. Other cervids have similar eyesight to whitetails. So whitetail deer, they have really good eyesight, but not in the way that we see. They don't see fine detail at a distance like we do. They would probably fail a driver's license test, trying to determine, the intricacies of letters and numbers and shapes. That said, they really are good at seeing certain colors, and they're not colorblind either. A lot of people think they're colorblind. They see black and white. Well, no, they don't. They see other shades of color that we see. So they see blue really, really well. According to some research that's been done by certain deer labs and colleges in the eastern United States, specifically some around Auburn, Georgia, Mississippi State. I think there's several in the South that's looked at this, but they see the color blue approximately better than we do. And most deer, not me, but a lot of the biologists think that they see UV quite well too. And so a lot of the laundry detergents that you see just used in everyday America have UV brighteners in them. So if you use something like that on your hunting clothes, you're ultimately making your hunting clothes glow, so to speak. You're enhancing the UV. And so that's another reason that you want to focus on a hunting-based laundry detergent, because that's not going to be present within those products.
Very interesting. Something else that was interesting, caught me off guard here, was you want to brush your teeth and you want to avoid certain foods because your mouth emits scent too.
Yeah, I would venture to say that the mouth, and they've done some studies on this too, that most scent actually comes from your head. At least a lot of the scent that gets emitted into the atmosphere around you comes from your mouth, comes from your, your nose, mouth region. So being aware of the foods that you eat, I think, are important, especially, not eating gassy and spicy things. That's going to make you, I guess the nicest way to say it, to project gas, regardless of which end that gas comes from. You just probably want to avoid things that's going to cause that. And if you've been hunting out there for very long, if you're 20, 30, 40 plus years old, you probably know what foods get you and what foods don't. So that's something to think about, the foods you eat, and, having plenty of oral hygiene there is going to be good. One thing I like to do too is I'll brush my teeth and then I'll eat an apple, and that really seems to take care of that deal. Okay,
here's an odd one. Getting dressed in the field. Now, if you're alone, I guess it's okay. If there's people around, it's going to look a little odd. You're recommending you get completely dressed in the field?
I don't always. It just depends on the situation. If I'm hunting alone, which I do most of the time, that's something I'll think about. So I keep my hunting clothes in a dedicated container it's a product that you can get from Wild Game Innovations. So there's a lot of products out there that are ozone based, and these ozone machines have cycles on them that can be used to reduce your scent in the field, or they can be used to treat your hunting clothing. And so ozone is actually used in commercial things. Yeah, there's a lot of applications, but ozone is used. Large ozone machines are used to clean out a lot of places where they have smoke damage to get the smell out. But anyway, long story short, ozone removes scent particles. And so there are hunting-based products out there that are used by hunters to captivate and eliminate their scent particles in the atmosphere around them, and their scent cone downwind. But these same things also have basically cycles on them that can be used within a container that runs ozone through your hunting garments. And so there's a lot of people that use ozone. I don't personally use ozone anymore. There's a similar technology out there. Wild Game Innovations offers it. It's called Zero Trace Pure Ion. They have a dedicated hunting clothing box, and then this unit is it within the box, and then you run the cycle, and that further helps purify and remove scent from the clothing. So that's something that I personally like to do. That said, it's really about, again, keeping your clothes separate from everything else. So there's a lot of reasons to keep them in a dedicated container like that. But getting dressed in the field is good. So like these are totes that are really easily transported, and you can, pick up whatever tote you want. It doesn't have to be something special or something dedicated for hunting clothing, but keeping your hunting clothes in a tote, whether it be something like I was talking about or a $5 tote from Dollar General, whatever you do, getting dressed in the field can help reduce some odors that might get into your garments, especially if you've got to stop for gas or you're driving through at McDonald's and getting something to eat, and you don't want certain particles or something like that to get in around you. If you're leaving work, and you don't have time to go home, but you want to have your hunting clothes with you, keep them in that dedicated box and then dress when you get in the field. So there's a lot of situations where you might decide to dress once you get to the property that you're hunting.
Well, we are out of time, and we only got through about half of the items that you recommend when it comes to scent control. So, folks, if you want to find out more, go to outdoorlife.com, go to the hunting section, and look for Josh Honeycutt's article about scent control. Fascinating subject. Josh, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sportsman's Cove Lodge is Alaska's best lodge, and as you know, I'm a big fan. I've been to Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska several times. I love the float plane ride in. I love the fishing for halibut, salmon, and cod, and I can't get enough of the fantastic food and dynamite hospitality that they offer at the lodge. Now they are building new accommodations, new rooms that'll have television. They've brought Wi-Fi to the lodge too, and they're even offering extended 7-day stays with not just fishing, but other adventures too, as well as the opportunity to have a corporate retreat. Find out more about Sportsman's Cove Lodge and book your stay today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com, and use the promo code RADIO10. That's Radio 10. Let me repeat that one more time. That's alaskasbestlodge.com and the promo code RADIO10 for 10% off your next adventure.
Campers, adventure seekers, hunters, and foodies. No matter the lifestyle, we can all agree on one thing. Great food and great people are worth remembering. At Camp Chef, we don't just make grills. We create each product knowing that a warm meal is always better when it's shared with those we love. Learn more about Camp Chef grills, smokers, and portable cooking equipment at campchef.com. That's campchef.com for a better way to cook outdoors.
In today's news, I'm cooking a brisket. Let's go to Jill at my house to see how it's going.
This is your house and you brought me and the crew to check on your brisket?
That's correct, Jill. How's it looking?
This is a Camp Chef Woodwind Wi-Fi. You know you can check your cook right from your phone, right?
I didn't know that was an option, Jill. Well, never mind. But before you leave, can you feed the dog?
What? No.
When we get back, why is my check engine light on? The answer may shock me.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you could get both, why not? Especially when it comes to health care. And that is MediShare. You get both. Many families save $500 a month with MediShare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied, too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. That's because MediShare works. It has for more than 30 years. It's a community of Christians who have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth. They love the huge PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price in 2 minutes. Here's the number. Just call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. It's time to talk about politics when it comes to the outdoors. And with us here to help you navigate through that is Todd Adkins. He's a senior vice president with the Sportsmans Alliance. He's coming at us today from Columbus, Ohio. That's the headquarters for the organization. Todd, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, there's several things to talk about that are on the national radar right now, and I guess we'll start off with Bears Ear National Monument. This is a relatively new national monument that was created in Utah, and it's unlike other national monuments that it's co-managed. Tell us a little bit more about the national monument, and then we'll kind of get into the situation we're dealing with here.
Well, Bears Ears has had this interesting history as of late, and we've actually had several administrations go back and forth about essentially where the boundary should be, what it should look like, what the management focus should be. This monument was created by Obama, and it's been through these various iterations. Trump reduced the actual borders, that is the overall size of Bears Ears, and then Biden expanded them back to the original 1.3 million acres. What's important here on Bears Ear is BLM has made a very clear decision, apparently at the highest level, that when it comes to recreational shooting, that they are going to start to diminish opportunities for people on these BLM lands, which account for the majority of property in most of the western states. That's what's so problematic about this shift. It started earlier in the year at Sonoran Desert, which is in Arizona. Again, a severe restriction, a massive thousands of acres, closing much of that property to recreational shooters. Bears Ears is an outright prohibition. Shooters off the land. Now, this becomes a real problem when it comes to folks, whether they're engaged in hunting, self-defensive shooting, or just recreational shooting for the fun of it. When you live in the West, public property, public lands, whether they be state or federally managed, are kind of the bulk that everybody is utilizing these public lands for these activities. And so when an agency like the BLM decides, guess what, you need to get off the landscape, we're going to start raising heck about that. And in this case, we have. So this is a lot of folks commented about how you can actually approach issues concerning public safety or cultural resources or anything else, many of these rationale that BLM put together, without an outright prohibition. That, to me, is an agency kind of philosophy that's being expressed. We're just going to ban shooting on the entire thing. So that's why we've kind of signaled we're going to file suit on this. We're going to stop this. We're going to talk to federal judges about this.
And folks, BLM is not Black Lives Matter. A funny story, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was reading the newspaper and was reading a headline in the Oregonian, BLM occupies Portland City Hall. And I was wondering, why would the Bureau of Land Management occupy the Portland City Hall? And that's the organization we're talking about, is the Bureau of Land Management, which did not occupy the Portland City Hall. But just to clarify there. All right, so I understand why you're filing suit, and you're not the only organization coming out against this. The National Shooting Sports Foundation has also made a strong stand on this. Let's talk about something else. This is something that's not not a factor in the western U.S. where I live. Sunday hunting. There's a prohibition on Sunday hunting in several eastern states, including Pennsylvania. Tell me about the history of the Sunday hunting prohibition and why this may change in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so it is interesting that you kind of present that way. It doesn't matter where you live in this country, there always seems to be a problem that hunters, shooters, and other folks who enjoy the outdoors have to deal with, right? So Sunday hunting laws in this country, it's packed to mostly the eastern, kind of the East Coast, going from the Carolinas north. Depending on how you count the states, it's 11 or 12 that actually ban Sunday hunting in some way, shape, or form. Pennsylvania's Sunday hunting ban has been in place for over 200 years. Many folks will have heard of already, though, especially folks from out west, the old-fashioned blue laws. It used to be in many areas of the country, you couldn't do a whole host of things on Sunday. And for many of these states, hunting is the last holdout, unfortunately for us, where it's the last remaining blue law still in effect. And literally, Pennsylvania at one time was an outright prohibition on Sunday hunting of any kind, anywhere, public or private. And over the years, Sportsman's Alliance and other groups have come together to chip away at that. And right now in Pennsylvania, we've chipped away at it enough that as the legislature has made changes over the years so that you do get a little bit of Sunday hunting in your typical deer season, let's say. I think you get 3 Sundays during the season to actually engage in this. Well, this is a problem, as all your listeners will know. Recruitment and retention is a linchpin of our entire community moving forward into the next century. We know we have to recruit, we have to retain. Well, think about how busy families are now with everything going on in all of our lives. If you carve off an entire day from the weekend, when most people have available, especially fathers and mothers, to engage in any activities with their children, you've carved off half of that weekend before you even get started. And you see what a problem this is going forward. So it looks like we're getting ready to cross the finish line in Pennsylvania. We don't want to get our hopes up too high because it's always been a very difficult fight. We've gotten the final bill for full Sunday hunting in Pennsylvania through the Senate. It is now in the House. It has been handled in committee by the House, but they only have a handful of days left in their session for this year. We're hearing good things. I will say generally it looks positive that we're going to get it finally done this year. One never knows. We're going to keep fighting to the end. So for your listeners who have contacts and or find this issue important, please, by all means, go to our website. You can find our alerts, figure out how to get engaged in this issue. But it looks like finally we're going to take that state, Pennsylvania, off the map as one that prohibits Sunday hunting.
And what is that website, Todd?
Sportsmansalliance.org. And so the name is plural possessive, right? MENS, sportsmansalliance.org. And not only on Pennsylvania and Sunday hunting, but any issue we are fighting, the BLM rule. There's a lot of material about BLM on there. Obviously, Washington, we've been engaged in a lawsuit there, so there's a lot of material on that. So our website's a great resource for everybody to visit.
Got about 1 minute left to talk about one other issue, and that is the gubernatorial race in Washington State. The current governor, Jay Inslee, a Democrat, has appointed a slate of anti-hunting commissioners that have canceled the spring bear hunt in Washington State, have also mismanaged the Blue Mountain elk herd, which is in dire straits at this point, and voters are faced with a choice between another Democrat, Attorney General Bob Ferguson, and Dave Reichert, former King County Sheriff and former U.S. Representative from the east side of Seattle. The Sportsman's Alliance, do you actually make endorsements or not?
We do not. We do not endorse candidates.
Fair enough. Have you met either one of these candidates?
I have met Dave Reichert, and he came to one of our events that we held in Seattle in advance of our lawsuit against Lorna Smith, one of the problematic commissioners. I had an excellent conversation with him. And I will just say, as somebody who's been in this game a long time, the politicians I watch for every time are the pretenders, the posers. He's no poser. He actually believes in what we believe in. So although I can't make an endorsement, as an organization, I can tell you that I had a personal interaction with him, and I know how I would vote. I'll just put it that way. And if anybody, has any understanding of how bad these commissioners that Inslee has appointed are, they are full-blown anti-hunting all the way, 24/7, 365. There is nothing to suggest that Bob Ferguson is going to change that in any way. He will continue the Inslee tradition. I'm just saying as a person, that's my opinion. There's little doubt in my mind that that's the case. So I think the choice is clear. But I have to let other folks make that choice for themselves.
That is more than fair. We are out of time. But folks, Todd Adkins, the Sportsmans Alliance, they're doing great things for us as hunters and shooters and people who love the outdoors. Todd, thanks for what you do, and thanks for being with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John.
As we wrap things up, I'd like to thank our great guest today, Todd Adkins from the Sportsmans Alliance, Josh Honeycutt, writing for Outdoor Life about deer hunting scent control strategies, and, of course, Keith Crowley with that award-winning interview about a very difficult hunt for Marin's quail. If you didn't get a chance to hear the whole show, we'll be uploading it as a podcast in a few days. Just look for America Outdoors Radio wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to hear the extended Pacific Northwest edition of our show, go to YouTube and look for the Cove Sportsman Network. They carry the Pacific Northwest edition with 13 minutes of additional content that you don't get to hear on our national show. On that note, it is time to go. Here's hoping you are healthy in the days ahead and that you're getting out there to enjoy hunting season 2. I know I am, and I know I am loving it. After all, it is your country and you're outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.
That's the sound you hear when a fish hits the new Sonic bait fish from Max Lure. This metal lure can be cast, trolled, or jigged and will catch just about anything that swims in the sea, the river, or the lake. The Sonic bait fish has a unique vibration and flutter that can be rigged in 7 different ways. With all sorts of eye-catching colors and weights available, you'll be reaching for the Sonic bait fish as your go-to lure. It's the Sonic bait fish. And that's another fish on, only from Max Lure.
Sonic booms not included with the Sonic Baitfish Strike unless you are fishing for jet fighters.
Don't leave yet. We've got one more local shot of fishing and hunting to wrap up the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio.
You know what time it is? It's time for another extended Max Minute from Max Lure. And with us again, Bob Loomis. Bob, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, John.
So let's talk about a free digital newsletter that's offered by Max Lure, the Mac Attack. It comes out every month, and this month's edition has got all sorts of great information in it.
Yes, it does. The Mac Attack, we've had it for a long time. And when I say a long time, I'm talking like 18, 19 years we've been doing the Mac Attack. And every year, you learn something a little bit different. And adding the stuff, the different types of information that we've got in there, talking about the products, how to use them, where to use them, as well as applying them to practicality. What is happening at this time? Well, right now we've got, a record run of coho going up the Columbia River, and it talks about all of those different types of products that you can use that fit with the Max products, as well as the fisheries and what's happening.
Well, and you've got some very talented writers that are contributing as well. Jason Brooks, who writes for all sorts of different publications, has got an article this month on mastering the secrets of using components. And Pete Roscoe, who was a big fan of the Sonic baitfish, has an article about catching coho, salmon, and kokanee with the Sonic baitfish, something I hadn't thought of before.
Yeah. It's got a lot of great information, how-tos, what to do, what you're looking for, and, time of year, obviously. And like I said, the information that's out there, it puts it into practical terms that right now is the time to go out and use them.
And it's not just articles, folks. There's videos, too. This month, there's a video about the Smile Blade. That is the patented Smile Blade from Max Lure. And they've even got a podcast, We Are Outdoorsmen, that features Richie Herod with the Northwest Outdoorsmen. So check it out. Just go to maxlure.com, subscribe to the Mac Attack, and you'll get it delivered to your inbox every month, and you'll be a better angler for it. Thanks as always, Bob.
Thank you, John.
That's all for this week, but don't worry. We'll do it all again next Saturday morning from 7 to 8, right here on Seattle's Sports Radio, KJR.